So we all know that the world is rapidly changing. And in retirement, it can be especially hard to keep up with all the different changes, whether that's in your own life or to benefits or to whatever it is, to the tax law, to whatever. To really keep up, to know what we have to do to make sure our benefits are fine, everything's going well, what we have to update, what things we have to enroll for, these many things. It's hard to keep up, especially when you're not working and with other people going through the same changes as you. So we're gonna go over today some of the major life events that happen in retirement and what we have to do to make sure everything's updated, make sure you're enrolled in everything that you need to get the most out of your federal benefits and there's no hiccups down the road in retirement. So the first potential life event that you could probably have in retirement is a move. Many people do move once they retire and things change, kids move away, they move, right? And so the biggest thing to keep in mind when you move in retirement and during your career as well is to make sure that OPM knows about your new address. They will often send updates for your benefits, especially if they're sending your checks for your pension or whatever to a certain address. Make sure you update them on that move. And now if you're going to be moving outside the United States, it'll basically be the same procedure where you keep them updated with your address. And nothing will change with your benefits as long as you don't move to a blocked country is what they call it. But right now the only blocked countries are Cuba and North Korea. So as long as you don't move to those countries, you should have no problem. You should only have to update OPM on that address change and you should be good to go. Now the second potential life event that some people might have in retirement is a divorce. And divorces are never fun, but if they do happen, a couple of things to remember is that sometimes there will be a court decree, divorce decree, whatever they call it, where your ex-spouse has a certain right to some of your benefits. And in that case, the court decree, the divorce decree, will have to be sent to OPM so they know exactly how to handle it all on their end. And at this point, you definitely want to update your beneficiary designations if that's something that you would like to do, where if you don't want your ex-spouse to be on, let's say, your life insurance or your TSP, or you don't want them to inherit anything if you would pass away, at that point you definitely need to update these things so they go to the people that you do want to inherit them down the road. So the third life event that could happen to many people in retirement is marriage, right? People get divorced, they get married all the time. And so if you were to get married during retirement, there are three things that you need to look out for. The first is, again, update your beneficiary designations. If you want your spouse to inherit any of your benefits, make sure they're on your life insurance, make sure they're on your TSP and your pension, right? The next thing to think about is a survivor annuity. When you get married, you need to send your marriage certificate to OPM, and they, at that point, would give you the information to give your spouse a survivor annuity if you want to. So basically, if you don't know already, what that means is if you elect a survivor annuity in retirement, they'll decrease what you get from your pension every month by 10%, but once you pass away, your spouse is eligible to about 50% of what you were receiving during retirement. So if you get married, you have the option at this point to elect this if that makes sense for you. And the third thing to do is to make sure that they are on your health insurance or your vision and dental insurance, whatever insurance you have. Make sure you put them on there, you update your coverage to make sure you take them into consideration and make sure all the boxes are checked, everything, their name's on everything, just so you have no hiccups down the road. Now the fourth life event that often happens in retirement is turning 65. Now this can be a big age for a number of reasons. First is you're eligible for Medicare. And now this is not my video or my article, my podcast where I talk about the pros and cons of Medicare. That's for a different day, different conversation. You'll have to research Medicare and see what makes sense for you. But at 65, you would be eligible to get Medicare if that makes sense for you. And also at age 65 is that if you had any FEGLI, any federal life insurance, then your coverage is going to start decreasing by 2% every month until it gets to 25% of the coverage you did have. Now you can stop this reduction if you start paying more premiums. So you have to look into this, see if it makes sense for you. If you need life insurance in retirement, some people don't need it, some people do, depending on their life situation. So just make sure you kind of have those two things in mind. Medicare and your life insurance is going to decrease. And the next life event that often happens in retirement is turning age 72. So just recently this changed. It used to be 70 and a half when this happened, but now at age 72, you have to start taking what they call RMDs, or required minimum distributions. So if you have an IRA, if you have, your regular TSP, if you have these other pre-tax retirement accounts, at age 72, you will be required to start taking money out of those accounts so that the government can get their slice of the pie in taxes. Because you never paid taxes on that money when you put it in, and all the growth that happened in your TSP or IRA, whatever it is, over the course of your career, the government says, hey, you have to start taking some out based on your life expectancy. You have to start taking some out so that we get our piece of the pie. So that starts at age 72, and if you don't take it out, there's nothing that'll force you to, but if you don't, you will get a penalty, so you're going to be paying more in penalties and fees and taxes than you would otherwise. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for this, so when you start getting close to 72, you start planning for it so that every year you take what you need to out of your TSP, your IRA, whatever it is, to make sure you don't have any unneeded fees in retirement. And the last thing is, if there's any other change to your family situation, which happens all the time, whether there's deaths or marriages or kids are born, whatever it is, if you need to update your insurances or your beneficiaries, do that. These kind of changes are common, so make sure you get familiar with the process of how it works, how to update these things, so it's just easy. Right? Okay, this happened, boom, I can do it. You know exactly what you're doing, so you don't have to really fret about it when you get into a certain situation. You know exactly what you're doing. And retirement can be an incredible time, but there are definitely some big age markers, like I said, big life events that we want to keep up on so that we can get the most out of our federal benefits regardless of what happens in retirement. So I hope this is helpful for you. I hope that this helps you down your financial journey, whether you're still in your career or already in retirement, so you kind of get things in your mind of, okay, these are the things that I need to be thinking about. And maybe you're not close to age 72, maybe you got some years. But this conversation, by you listening to this, it'll be back in your mind. And when you hear about it, when you read about it down the road, you're like, oh, I remember I need to do this. I need to be up on this so I don't pay any unnecessary fees. And please, please, please do the research that you need to do to get the most out of your life, out of your benefits, to really set yourself for success down the road. So again, thank you for being here, and I will see you next week.